So I just started the recording. So yeah, so just a FYI, today's meeting is going to be more abridged, mainly because I think a number of folks are getting back from Contribute, and also we haven't necessarily been working on this specific set of topics last week. But I did want to hit on a few high points just from certain perspectives. So just going through it, for the persistent links, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen really quick. And let's see here. So everybody see the development metrics screen right now? Okay, I got one out of the head. That's good to see. Yeah, so let's start with here. So average MRs per engineer. Actually, surprisingly enough, for the middle of the month, we're only down like 1 MR per engineer, which is a little bit strong, just from that perspective. Usually about the middle of the month, we're about 5. So given that we had the last week of Contribute, that's actually a pretty good result from that perspective. Usually it's the second half isn't necessarily double that, but it's usually kind of goes up, I want to say between 30 and or yeah, it goes up basically if it's 5, it goes up by 3 to 4. So 60 to 80%. So based on that, we're trending fairly well from that perspective. Similarly, our MRs is at 457 at the middle of the month. If you take and look at July to August, there's basically about a 77% drop. So if we assume no productivity improvements, what you would expect to see from not 616, I'm sorry, from 1775 is 1,300, I believe, a little over 1,300. So if you look at it from that perspective, we're actually we're trending fairly well from that perspective, particularly if you look at the weekly charts. What you'll see is if we do a few weeks of 300 or more, which we've done pretty consistently for the last say month and a half, you would kind of expect us to see kind of come right in around that 1,300. So that's kind of what I'm roughly predicting. So it looks like roughly based on a normal Contribute month, we're actually trending fairly well around that. So that's for the first 2 questions on that. And then Mac, I didn't know if you updated this set of charts yet.
No, not this one. So Tanya has another V2. We probably give another update next week. I think her version of it, you can just plug in the data and just renders in the charts nicely.
Gotcha. Okay. When Tanya, when you get that done, can you go back to the top of the persistent links and update it there, just so I don't have to look for it or dig.
Definitely.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Thank you, Tanya.
Yes. Thank you, Tanya. So that's on the persistent items, and I'm gonna stop sharing the screen again, and we'll go back to hypotheses. And the only reason why I'm talking about hypotheses is just to remind ourselves of which ones we still are working on, and kind of not expecting any update here, though. If anybody has any updates, feel free to jump in. But I know on the first one, which is rate of maintainers has dropped over time, which has negatively impacted our average MRs per author. I'm looking at getting a ratio of those. We have a tool now that kind of gives us the historical data on maintainers to authors, and I just haven't had a chance in the last to basically address that. So, and then the next one is developers with less tenure at GitLab and with different methodology, small MRs compared to those with longer tenure be productive. And Clement, you had an action on this, and
yeah, I haven't done anything.
No work. Totally cool. Just a reminder, right? So I'm doing the same thing for myself, is just kind of forcing myself to remember, oh yeah, this is what I was working on before I left. And then the last one I think is on developers with less tenure GitLab comments still learning the code base compared to those with longer tenured or more productive. And I think Dahlia was going to look into this one and kind of understand. So I'll check with her in the next couple of days to see if she can start working on that. Cool. And then let's see here. Current metrics kind of have that information in there around the 579 versus 1366. Like I said, it feels roughly about right. It'll be interesting to see kind of how we kind of work from there. The next one I had on the list was around the productivity team. And I was just asking the general question of asking for folks to kind of hit that link and read through that, and if we felt like that was the right set of things for the productivity team to focus on. In particular, there's one in there that jumped out at me that I was kind of curious about, which was make suggestions for improvements, monitor the results, and iterate, which is part of, there's dashboarding, which I think has been kind of largely the focus. There was that one, and then also building the productivity tooling to help speed up overall engineering. And the question I had there is if we had things specifically we wanted to try in those areas to get developers on sooner than later, it'd be good in this forum to kind of start talking about that more, or some form to maybe is a better way to put it from that perspective. So Beck, I don't know if you have thoughts on either of those topics, or if you just want to say, I've got to go back and look at this again.
So the Remy's team has been doing all this since the beginning already, but as we scale, is this the right group to discuss about this? And if it is, and Remy is going to join, or Mark is going to join this group, so there's an interface there. But this is the set of their current responsibilities. To note that velocity and productivity here, I'm talking about things in the test automation and test infrastructure world, so review apps, GDK, all that stuff. That's where I'm coming from. But as we know, productivity can be a loaded term. I'm using this term because that's the industry standard for how really mature organizations do quality in the really advanced term, and this is the facet of work. So that's my input. If there's anything else that's other teams in development are working on in productivity, then it's a shared responsibility. We can bring it up and discuss it.
So you're thinking of it in terms of how do I increase overall engineering productivity as opposed to development productivity is the way I interpreted that. Is that a fair characterization?
Right. It's not, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. But if development came back and said, here's something that we need from an automation perspective, and it could potentially be included in this charter?
Yes, then we would treat it as like a service desk thing and jump on it and deliver it for you.
Okay. All right. Okay. The other part is the suggestions for improvements. I don't know if Remy has any specific thoughts around that as far as, hey, developers are working in this fashion or that fashion from that perspective. The other thing I thought about is we can do a survey with our development teams to kind of figure that out. Is there anything that you should be doing to automate? And, if you don't have time, state that as well, because that may be one of the cases where I may come back to this team and say, is this where this type of initiative falls from that perspective?
So I can provide some status at the top of my head. So there's two high-level initiatives that we're working on. Is the flaky specs that came up in the retrospective. We're actually parallelizing it in a more deterministic fashion now. So hopefully that's going to come in by the time we have the next retro. It should get better. So the flaky red master, and then review apps and making it a gate. So that should roll out sometime next week. The success rate is at 90-something% now. And that should help quite a bit on providing a stable test environment for every MR and CE.
Gotcha. Is that the automated issues in merge request triage, or is that different?
No, this is the feature environment that's attached to every MR.
Okay.
And you get like a full stack, some small cloud for every.
Oh, that's right. The commits associated with that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And QA tests are going to run against that environment now versus like it's different mechanisms.
Okay. What about the automated issues in merge request triage?
Genshin is working on it, and that's also ongoing. We're cleaning up the labels right now. I think if you infer like a type or for example serverless or a code or IDE, we will automatically assign a team and stage now, and that we already got feedback from all the product managers, and that change is also going soon as well. So it is being actively worked on, but small chunks in all areas, and we have 2 more headcount, and I'm looking forward to to fill those in because we do need help in these areas.
Okay. I'll talk to Adalia about that because like that's one case of, we think the issues in merge requests, we've seen them go up. So the question would be as if like the triage would be actually a help with that from that perspective. We don't necessarily have to work causal to say that, having a triaging capability will speed us up, but it feels like those are potential areas where we should be thinking about it just to kind of help our overall effectiveness from that perspective.
Got it. Okay.
It might also help with our SLO that we've supposedly, we've emphasized with engineers, which is, do code reviews first, though, that's really difficult if we don't know the load properly associated with that when we make that statement. So, okay. Okay, cool. And then the last thing I had, well, two more things. One, and this is really brief, so have a better story next week, I'll say here. Basically, it's around, right now we have Periscope, which we're doing some exporting of data to, and GitLab has an ETL associated with that. One of the things is that I've noticed is that when I looked at it last night, I couldn't find the link before this meeting to basically show this, but basically my understanding is that they don't right now export the MR data. So one of the questions I have is whether or not that would be, either a productivity team or which team potentially could, make the enhancement there to basically affect that. Because I think even with the product going into the product, we're still going to have to slice and dice the data in Periscope a little bit at certain times. So because of that, I feel like we're going to have both capabilities available to us from that perspective.
Yeah, this is a great call out because I know there's a push for Periscope, and this happened also the first month I joined, which is like, hey, we have the quality dashboard, but then people want it in Looker. I think we need to strike a balance, and the Looker integration was slower than what we expect. That's why we just doubled down on the quality dashboard, and that's why it is where it is now. But from your point of view, Christopher, like, how do you want to? I assume this is to solve the KPI OKRs, correct? Because we need to bump up the maturity. Are we seeing like half and half? Like if we have it in the quality dashboard, just add it there, quick and dirty, and get it done, or is it like or 80 in Periscope and whatever we can do in Periscope, do it in quality dashboard? What's your take?
My take is actually what I want to get to is like right now, if I would have said it, I would say it's probably 80-20, 80s in the quality dashboard, and 20% is in the is actually in the product, right? Because you have delivered on some product feature set associated with that, right? Where I think we need to be is we need to have I'll say 60% of the product and 40% in Periscope. If that makes sense. Like ideally it'd be 20-80, but I just have a feeling that there's going to be always some new information that we're going to want to pull that isn't currently existing in the product, unless I see the product really ramping up.
I see.
Just because like slicing and dicing the data is, I think, going to be the main thing that you get out of Periscope that you may not get out of the product, right? At least the way we're currently designing it and my understanding of it.
Yes. Well, the nice part about because we have controllers now, and we call them finders and calculators. Like you're effectively pulling from the database directly, so there's no fancy ELT involved. Okay, I'll prep the team. Mark and Remy should be available to join starting next week.
Okay, yeah, and that may be something that if it turns out that getting the ETL in to get MRs over to Periscope, which gets us off of, and then building up the dashboards gets us off. That might be the quick and dirty that gets us off of.
Yep.
Off, right? So then you don't have to maintain that infrastructure, and it's more uniform from that perspective. At least that would be my argument currently for that, because I think we're the one thing is Sid will probably tell us we're investing in that as opposed to the product. Agree with that, but we're gonna have to balance between these because, like we said, this until we can really slice and dice in the product, we're just in a spot where we need some external service to help us provide that. We don't even know how we want to slice and dice it too. That's the other
right.
So.
I can definitely see the challenge of data that needs 2 API calls to get everything in one unit. Like the first activity or first time you add a milestone, like those are like n+1 events because it's not there. You need to make another call. So having an ETL, just pump it in, it might be faster. Yeah. And who's investigating the ETL on your side?
So nobody's investigated the GitLab hook for it, though it already exists and it pushes data in. Just when I went and looked at it, this is Christopher looking at it. It didn't include MRs. So in theory, already most of our project information is getting pushed in. We just need to figure out how to use it. Tim Zalman is working on pushing our code coverage into, and he's kind of my guinea pig as far as, like figuring out how hard or easy it is to get data pushed into Periscope around that. And I just, with everything else last week, I haven't had a chance to catch up with him to see if he's been able to invest any time in that. Because basically what he's going to do is right now we have a job that runs and it does post data to like a single page, but it's a point in time as opposed to some historical, every night running on a gate job. Show us what the code coverage is associated with this and then post it in Periscope.
Okay.
So there's kind of two different things going on there. One is how hard is it to create things to push in. The other part is how do we update an existing tool package to represent MRs with it, which is, that's the part that when we figure out how easy it is, then we can do the other part of it from that perspective. Okay. Cool. Last thing I had on my list was just exit criteria and reminding everybody of the exit criteria. In this case, I think the first two of the exit criteria we've got, though I haven't defined the official KPI. Well, I've defined the KPIs, but I haven't gotten them to level 4 maturity because I don't have thresholds associated with them. Next one on the list is training around those KPIs, which we'll have to basically develop that associated with that. And then I think the new ones were added by UMEC.
Yep.
And I don't know if you have any update there or if you just want to say the classic haven't gotten to them yet.
Yeah, we haven't iterated on this, but essentially we do want to lower the time to resolve S1, S2s, and that's a metric that I think Sid and Eric will be looking at. Triaging all the backlog of customer facing bugs. This may be a one-time event where we just fan out to everybody to triage and just get it in, right? Because you don't have a severity and priority, you don't have any visibility, and support team is game on this. I think the next one is probably going to come first because I'm probably going to reorder this because we need the data first, and we can ensure that the number is going down. And then the second to last is already in the works now. I'll wait for Mark Fletcher to update. And after that is, I think, a mini training program. We probably end up with some YouTube training videos and make sure that all engineering managers know how to use the levers effectively. Yeah.
Around that feels like we've gotten to the point where we got to start tracking the stuff and some of the stuff and issues. So I had an action from last week or 2 weeks ago to create a board. Haven't done that yet, but I'll start working on that so then we can put issues around this and then kind of track them in there.
Issue a board for this working group, you're saying?
Yeah, for the working group, essentially. Okay. That'll help us just because then we can list them out and kind of go through that way of looking at that information. Cool. Any other topics we need to discuss?
We do have another KPI review, right? For all of engineering.
It's next Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah. So is there any output from this meeting that we need for that meeting? Anything that we could prep before?
So we do need to prep before the meeting. The KPI OKR review is on Wednesday, May 22nd from 12 to 12:25 Pacific time. I don't think we've made measurable progress in the last month on any of them, but I'll have to check from that perspective. But most of the stuff we have automated, so like it's just me pulling information in to the KPI review document, which we'll have to put together associated with that. So right now I think the answer is no. this working group, other than the fact that we eventually we will have other things we need to add.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Any other topics? All right. Thanks, everybody.